another video. Today I'm headed over to our favorite street taco place over in Ashford. We've been kind of made it a Saturday tradition to go over there and get street tacos. It's actually a pizza place, but they have the best street tacos. It's kind of weird, but anyway, normally my whole family's with me on Saturday for lunchtime, but my son broke his leg in two places on the trampoline a week ago today, and so he's been kind of holed up on the couch for all week, and so I'm just running over to pick up tacos today. But because I have to go back, I have to go right by the place that FSD always has an issue, and I've described it before on the channel. It's what I call lane drift. It's a pretty common thing that's been going on since, I mean, several versions ago. It's a tough issue that's still not fixed yet, and I know most of the videos that I've shown so far, there's really been no issues, no interventions. I think one of the videos a couple ago we had one intervention at a turn lane in Clearwater, but this is the route that I go to work, and so I know this one spot always gives it trouble, and I want to be balanced on this channel and not just, you know, I never cut out any interventions or disengagements. I'm only showing exactly what's happening, but it is pretty rare that you have to take over for something like that. So I do want to show that, there is places that still give it trouble, and I'm confident they'll get it fixed, because it seems like it wouldn't be that complicated a thing. But the whole AI learning thing and just sending it data and having it learn, it kind of blows my mind how they do it anyway. So I'm not going to say it's an easy problem to fix, because obviously it's more complicated than that. But anyway, when we get to the point, it's a few minutes up here, but I'll kind of describe what it does, and that way you can kind of see what it's doing and the process of disengaging it, because it's pretty intuitive. I mean, it's no different really than if you had your car on cruise control and cruise control did something wrong. Let's say it decided to brake for no reason, or it decided to speed up for no reason. Basically you would just take control by doing the opposite of what it's doing wrong. So what it will do, because typically when I turn right onto Highway 84 up here, and I'll give you a heads up when it's about to do it, because it's pretty much the same turn lane that gives it trouble every time, and I don't know if it's something that the camera sees with the lane opening up to the right, and it thinks that it's just the main lane merging to the right or something, but because it really is the same, one or two turn lanes in about the same area that gives it the problem. And so I know it's coming, and I get ready to take over. But yeah, what it'll do is that once I turn right onto 84, maybe a mile or two after I make that right, there's a turn lane that opens up on the right side, and even though the navigation is still set to go straight, when that turn lane opens up, it wants to slip into it for whatever reason, and it does. I mean, it turns the blinker on, and it starts to merge just like it would if the whole road, if the lanes were changing over, like if you're in a construction zone or something and there were cones in the road, it just kind of tries to slip over into that lane. So what I'll usually do is just have my hand on the steering wheel, so that whenever it does go to turn, it senses that pressure and it just disengages itself, and then I just re-engage it and keep going. But like I said, that's one of the spots. It's one or two turn lanes between this road and Highway 84, headed over toward Ashford from Dothan, that has the issue, and it's done in other places too. This is just on my daily commute, and so this is the spot that I know that it routinely has an issue. And Tesla has a way that you can give them feedback, verbal feedback. They collect all the data from FSD, whether you're running it actively running it, or whether it's just running in the background, because every Tesla vehicle has all of the hardware, and so to help their system train, it basically runs it in kind of a ghost mode in the background, just as a training tool for the software. So even if you never use it, if you're manually driving every time, it's still running that program in the background to gauge what the program would want to do versus what a human driver does. And so it helps the system to learn. But in addition to that, every time you disengage, it pops up something on the screen down here that says, you know, hey, you disengaged, what went wrong? And so it's a way for them to get a constant feedback from their customers, from the people who are using FSD and testing it out, trying it out, whatever. And basically you just push the little voice command button and you can give them a 10-second clip describing what happened. That way they're not having to try to decipher just from your video clip exactly what happened. So you can kind of give them a little bit of context. And I've done that a few times on this. Occasionally I'll resubmit it again, because I know they probably have thousands of these things coming in a day based on the million or so cars that are out on the road. I don't know how many active FSD users there are right now. It's in the hundreds of thousands, so I'm sure they're getting a lot of that stuff in. So I'm sure they have a way of kind of sorting it out, ranking it in order of priority, and working on trying to get it fixed. But it's kind of a cool real-time feedback loop that they can give. Most companies have some way to get feedback from their customers, but this is a way that they can get an actual, audio recording tied to a specific clip where the system didn't respond, how the driver would have wanted it to. And so it's kind of cool that you can give them, in your own words, in your own voice, what the problem is. And it makes it super convenient, because for most products, you'd have to wait till you get home and either get on your phone or get online and put in a comment or feedback or whatever. And this allows you to do it immediately, exactly what happened, and you can give in your own words, exactly what the problem is. It's kind of neat. And Tesla's shown in the past that they really do act on feedback pretty real time. Tesla doesn't have quote unquote year models with their vehicles. Most automobile companies, sometime around the fall, September, October, they have a new year model rollout, and any major changes to that particular model just get kind of rolled in at that yearly update. Tesla doesn't really operate that way. If they've got an improvement to the process or to the manufacturing line, or to if they got a new type of camera or something, or whatever they're doing, they don't hold those things for a particular year model. They roll it in as soon as they can, retool the factory or whatever. They roll those things in real time. So it's kind of neat. Like if the new thing is available and you order your car after that, then most likely your car is going to have it, depending on where it is in the manufacturing process. All right, so here's a right turn onto 84. So we are just merging on to 84, and so I want you to kind of be paying attention. It's usually not this first turn lane, but normally once we crest this hill, I can't remember exactly which one, but it's right up here within the next mile. So just kind of be watching, and I'll show you what it does, and I'll let it go a little further than normal. Normally, since I know it's coming, I just immediately take it. But it will probably be too quick for you to see anything on the video if I do it right away. It's nothing that's like safety related or anything like that, but as soon as it does it, see, it bobbled a little bit there, and see, it was going to try to drift there. I don't know if you saw that. So I did take over, and that was basically all it took. So you could probably see it start to want to get into that turn lane, and then this is the words that come up: autopilot disengaged, what happened? So you can push the button and let them know. But basically that was it, and I believe there's one other one, and they're pretty close together. It's kind of interesting that, I mean, you'll see there's, we've already passed 3 or 4 turn lanes on this road from the right lane, and it didn't do it. But that particular one, and potentially one right over this next hill around this curve, and then beyond that, it doesn't seem to do it anymore after that either. You can see right there's another one. So I can't really put my finger on. I've tried to rack my brain. This may be it right here. Yeah, well, the right turn blinker came on just for a split second, but then it turned on the left. So I think it was wanting to get around this car, and so it canceled its own turn. But I think that was the same one that used to do it. And if it ever does get over to this lane, because it's passing, like right here, we've got a couple of cars that are going a little bit slower than I am, so it's not going to get back over until after we're beyond this point that it normally has the issue on. But I think those were the two spots, the one that I took over, and then the one that it put the blinker on, but then decided to get over to the left because of this car. But anyway, I know that it's not all that exciting, and it's a little aggravating that, you know, every day on the way to work I know that spot's going to pop up, and I know that I'm going to have to disengage. But you know, it's worth it for the one to two times right there that I may have to just, you know, hold the wheel and then turn it back on. It's not that big a deal, considering that the rest of my 30 some odd minute commute, I just kind of relax and supervise it and make sure that it does everything else that it's supposed to do. And of course, when new releases come out, so we're waiting on 12.4 to come out, and that's the first one that is supposed to be no steering wheel nag. So you'll see every minute or so a little blue bar will pop up here, and I'll have to just touch the steering wheel ever so slightly and just give it a little bit of resistance so that it makes that go away. With 12.4 release, that goes away as long as the internal camera right up here can see your face and be able to detect that you're attentive. So as you can see, I wear sunglasses, and you've probably noticed I wear them all the time. If it's the least bit sunny, I wear my sunglasses just because I've gotten used to it, and my eyes are pretty sensitive to the sun now. So I probably won't get all of the benefit out of the no nag thing for the next release, because if you've got sunglasses on and it can't tell if you're looking where you're supposed to be looking, or if you're looking down at your phone or something, it's still going to have the nag there, just as a safety precaution to make sure that you're not, you know, that somebody's not trying to abuse the system by wearing dark glasses and looking and doing something else, which I totally understand. I mean, they've got liabilities too, and even though it's very clearly stated that for the current state of supervised full self-driving, that the driver is still got to be completely in control. You have to be able to take over at any moment. You know, you're still in control of it. There will still be people that try to abuse the system, just like with anything. And if and when something happens because they're abusing the system, you know, they're going to have potential lawsuits that come up. So I completely get it, and you know, I understand that until it's officially level 4, level 3, whatever the autonomous level is that doesn't require you to be fully paying attention, I understand that they've got to put things in place to make sure that you're doing that. So here's our left turn in Ashford. So this is getting pretty close to where the taco place is, or the pizza place rather, that sells tacos on Saturdays. David's Pizza is not a sponsor of this video in any way, shape, form, or fashion, but if you live in the area, David's Pizza has some amazing street tacos on Saturday. Saturday only, though. Anyway, so yeah, we're probably a quarter of a mile from where I'll be disengaging to park the car, but I just want to make a short video just to show that spot and just to kind of show what it means to disengage when it does something that it's not supposed to do. Fortunately, it's consistent enough to where it's pretty much that same place every time I take this route, so I know it's coming. And but that's the kind of thing you have to be looking for, because sometimes it you know, it does something that is a little bit out of the ordinary, and you do need to be ready for it. But anyway, that's all for this video. Hope you all are subscribed. If you're not, subscribe to the video. That'll help me out. And I'm going to go ahead and disengage this and park the car right over here. But anyway, catch y'all in the next video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video if you did, and I appreciate it. See you guys later. Alright, well, in a sad turn of events, the place that serves the amazing street tacos I was just talking about is closed today. I'm not sure why. There was no sign or anything. So I went down the street to another place that I love, and they're also closed today due to being out of town for something else. So we are back in the car. I'm back in the car, and I need to navigate to the house because I don't have navigation set. But anyway, so I'm headed back toward home, and we're going to regroup and pick something else to eat. There's a Philly cheesesteak place in Dothan that is also fantastic, and the only problem with that is it's about 12:30, and sometimes they sell out early because they run out of bread. So there's a chance I'm gonna have to change gears yet again after the third try, but we'll see. So anyway, I just turned the cameras back on so that we can, I guess, catch the ride back home and see if anything entertaining, interesting to watch happens. So, I've got a buddy that lives in the next city over in Enterprise. Oop, there it goes. That was the lane drift on the way home. So it does do it. I forgot to mention, on the way home, it's in a slightly different spot on this road, same road, but on my drive home, right about there, another right-hand turn lane that it sometimes wants to slip into. So you can probably see that. It just kind of, all of a sudden, it's like the road just turned and it wanted to get into the turn lane. But you basically just, it's kind of like giving it pressure for the nag. You just basically give it more pressure. If you want it to go somewhere, all you have to do is do it. It's not going to fight you on it. As a matter of fact, when I first started doing FSD and it was asking for me to do the steering wheel nag for the attention verifier thing, I would accidentally disengage it about half the time those first couple times trying to drive it, because it doesn't take much when it asks you to give it a little bit of a tug. If you do it just barely too much, it thinks you want to take over, and so it disengages it. But it's that easy to disengage it. Like I said, it doesn't fight you on it. If you want to make it go somewhere and you do it, it's just gonna hand it back over to you, which may be a concern for some people because they don't want to feel like they're out of control, or like the car is gonna do something against what they want it to do, and it really won't. So any movement of the wheel, beyond just a little bit of pressure, if you move it at all physically, it will disengage it, and you'll be, instantaneously in control. Or if you apply any brake whatsoever, I mean, even if you reach up and just tap it by accident, that's why I usually keep my foot well away from it, unless there's a situation where I think, oh, you know what, this car might pull out and I need to be ready just in case. I usually just keep this right foot, fully backed away, because if I hover right over it and accidentally touch it, it'll disengage it. Now it's different with the accelerator. If you give it some acceleration, and I can show you that right now, it will, and this kind of makes sense, it will allow you to increase your speed, and basically it's just like increasing if you had it on cruise control and you wanted to speed it up a little bit. It doesn't take you out of cruise control to speed you up again, it just speeds you up. So I can show you that. So right now I'm going 60. I'm not going to do it a lot because I've got a truck in front of me, but if I give it just a little bit of accelerator, you can see it does speed up a little bit, but it doesn't disengage it. And then if I back off of it, it's just, it's basically managing the speed again on its own because I took my foot back off of it. But the accelerator does not take over, only the brake or any manual input from the steering wheel beyond just a very slight pressure on it. So anyway, there's that. I do need to adjust my course because I just routed it to home, because I wanted to get it going. But I'm going to add a stop, and you may see it beep at me a second, because if you look down at the screen for too long, it will tell you to pay attention to the road. We want to go to Richie B's right there. basically going to take me the same route as I would be going home, but it may have me go around the circle. Let's see. No, it's actually going to route me back to 84. I was just already in that turn lane, so it didn't try to take me back out of the turn lane to go that way. Alright, so we're coming up on a left here from Beverly Road on to 84, and I just wanted to, it's not a big intersection, but it is it's a left-hand turn, so it adds slightly more complexity than when you're just making a right. And there is a light here, so I don't expect anything too exciting, but I'm just trying to capture some different scenarios, and also trying not to include, I just want to make sure sometimes I like to get my foot up just in case it tries to do something squirrely, but it did fine there. You probably saw my foot come up, but I didn't actually have to touch anything there. Anyway, I want to show some different scenarios, but at the same time I don't want to bore everybody with 5-10 minutes worth of county road driving where it's not really doing anything. So if you see some cuts to the film, that's the reason. Also, these GoPros, especially the ones right up here by the window, tend to get really hot when they're directly in the sun. I have to give it a little nudge there. So for some reason it wasn't wanting to start off there, so that's another thing. If it ever is too hesitant and you need it to go because you don't want the person behind you to get aggravated with you, you can just give it a little bit of gas or accelerator, and it'll get the idea and go. So yeah, there's a Rivian R1S. There's a couple of those in Dothan now. Sandwich place that I'm going to now, I really hope they've still got sandwich bread left. It's called Richie B's. Anybody that's local has probably been there, but they have some of the best Philly cheesesteak sandwiches that you'll ever have. And Richie B he's a character in and of himself. He was an actor, I guess back in the 80s and 90s. He played Conan the Barbarian on the TV series. So he's kind of a funny character. So there we are, merging into traffic. That's pretty good. So you can see that, I mean, that was a pretty tight spot. I mean, we're merging in and both lanes are very full. There's cars in front, cars behind. But that was really good. That was pretty human-like in that it just basically matched the traffic speed in the turn lane or in the merge lane. It had its blinker on, and then when there was a gap big enough, it matched the speed and it merged on in. That was exactly what I would have done. And this is actually a little bit busier time on the circle, being that it's Saturday. So this segment might actually be pretty good to show you a little bit heavier traffic around town. I've done a couple of circle drives before. I think the last one was on a Friday, if I remember correctly, and traffic wasn't all that heavy. But maybe this will get a little bit better picture of how it interacts with other vehicles. The 12.4 release that I mentioned earlier, that's supposed to get rid of the steering wheel nag as long as your face and eyes aren't covered, has been rolling out to some of the early testers over the last 2 to 3 to maybe 4 weeks. So I'm hoping any day now that it should go kind of a wide release. Sometimes those early releases they'll send out to kind of a small group of kind of intense testers that's pretty much all they do is ride around to different places where they know it's had trouble in the past and try it out and see how the new version does before they send it out to the wider audience. Just in an abundance of caution to make sure that it's not got any new bugs introduced to it. Like with any new software update, there's always a chance of new flaws showing up, even if you fix old flaws. So it might even be a 12.4.2 release or something like that before it goes to the wider group. And I'm definitely not in the select few that get them early. But I'm hoping here in the next week or so, maybe I'll get the 12.4 release and I can make a new video showing that. And maybe, I don't have super high hopes that my turn lane drift issue on the way to work will be fixed, because that's been a lingering issue for a long time. But one of these days they will fix it, and it's going to be kind of a big deal for me, at least, because that's the one thing around town really that bugs me the most are those couple spots, kind of one or two on the way to work and that one on the way back. Yeah, the day those are fixed will be nice. The only other main thing that I do typically is I'll tweak on the speed. So occasionally, especially when it turns onto a new road, it'll sometimes default back down to 25 or 30, which is really too slow for traffic flow. And so I'll flick this scroll wheel a couple times occasionally to bump the speed up. And that also does not disengage it. It just adjusts your preset maximum speed when you do that, either up or down. Still no update on my Cybertruck delivery. Still checking the app daily, looking for a VIN number. That'll be kind of the next. Here, I'm going to bump the speed up a little bit, try to speed us up some. That's really the next thing I'm waiting for, is a VIN number. But it's only late June, and I'm really not expected to get that until possibly as late as October. Just really hoping to get it in before hunting season starts again, so I'm not driving the old Model Y through the woods and through the mud. But I will if I have to. Alright, we got a truck that's coming across kind of late, but he had plenty of clearance, so the car wasn't really bothered by it too much. I mentioned before, but version 11 before this, which was mostly computer code, it did not like cars crossing in front of you like that truck just did. It did not like that at all. I think because it was mostly just looking at the physics of it and saying, hey, we've got a car that's going 0 miles an hour and we're closing on it fast at 50, and it really would want to hit the brakes kind of hard there. Since version 12 came out, every now and then it'll want to brake in that scenario, but as long as it can tell that they're going to clear, most of the time it just lets it happen pretty fluidly, just like a person would. You're going to look at it, you're going to kind of gauge in your mind, okay, yep, they're going to be out of the way in time, or no, they're not, and kind of make that decision real time. And that's kind of what it does. Same thing with when you're approaching a stoplight and it's green, but then it turns yellow. At kind of that awkward time where you're not really sure whether you want to hit the brakes. Is it going to be too short to be comfortable to stop, or is it going to be more of a danger to slam on your brakes versus do I just kind of speed up and move on through the yellow light? Those are interesting times too, because you can really see it kind of making those real-time decisions. And most of the time, I mean, there's been very few times that I've either given it gas or given it brake. And of course that one, you can see it, you might have seen it turn yellow like last minute, and of course that's a no-brainer for the car too. It's when it's in that sort of gray area, like if it were to turn yellow like now, it would kind of be in that sort of race of mental capacity to say, all right, I'm going to stop or I'm not going to stop. But it's pretty good about making a decision and going with it. It doesn't typically slow down and speed up and slow down and speed up. If it's going to go, it'll usually just rock on. If it's going to stop, it's usually pretty quick. As soon as that light turns yellow, if it knows that it's got enough time to decelerate, without being too uncomfortable on the driver, it's going to do that. You'll feel it immediately do one or the other. So it still gives you time to react if you disagree with what it has decided to do. So Richie B's is right up here on the left, so I'm going to take over here probably right after this. Well, I may not even have to, right? It looks like it is going to do a U-turn on its own. 12.3.6 brought in the ability to actually do a U-turn. In versions before that, it didn't really like U-turns very much. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why. I mean, the car's easily capable of doing a U-turn. It's got a fairly small turning radius, so it wasn't a problem for it physically, but and I think what it's going to do right here, yeah, it's going to stop a little short because this car is kind of pulled halfway through. It's going to let them get out there in the lane whenever they can see through. So he's going to inch through, make sure he's clear, and he's going to go. And now we're easing up. So we're going to turn over a little bit. It's going to want to peek out, and it sees that it's clear. It's going to finish this U-turn maneuver and then get over into the right lane to make this turn into a restaurant. So I'm going to take over here. This was a very confusing spot between these two restaurants and all these cones, and the turn lanes are partially blocked. So we're back on the road after picking up our Philly cheesesteaks, and the way that intersection is, you can't make a left on the circle, so I had to make a right. You kind of got to go a roundabout way, but it's kind of good because then it takes us down some back roads. So I've got FSD re-engaged now, and it's taking us down kind of on the inside of the circle through some little smaller roads here, and then it'll end up popping us back out onto, let's see, it's going to have us go out Choctaw Street and then back out on the circle. So kind of a short, a little short reroute through the circle, but at least a little bit different scenery than what we've seen before. So let's see where it's going to take us. That's part of the fun, at least for me, of using FSD, is that when it decides to reroute somewhere, I just kind of, I'm like, all right, well, cool. Let's check out this new new route and see where it wants to go. So it's just gonna make a right here at this stop sign. Pretty quiet over here. Saw that 20-mile-an-hour sign because there's a little park right here, so there's a 20-mile-an-hour through this section because of this park where kids play. So that's why it dropped down so low. You can see it's at 22 because I've got a 10% offset set for it, which is pretty minimal at low speeds. When you get up to the highway, speed limit 70, obviously it'll let you go 77, and you can adjust that with the scroll wheel. It's just kind of where I've got it set. There's my nag. Adjust that real quick. Our four-way stop, and you can see way off in the distance, that's Ross Clark Circle again. So we're gonna come back up here to this light and make a left, and then be kind of on our normal route to the house. Got a left blinker. And our nag again, so we gotta give it a slight touch. flashing yellow, which means you got to yield on the flashing yellow for any oncoming straight traffic. But there was no oncoming straight traffic, so it did the right thing and went on. Alright, so there's a good example of it turned yellow, but there was just enough time to start slowing and come to a stop, so it went ahead and started slowing, and did that one just like I would have. Set on assertive, and you can tell that, I mean, I would not even have been that assertive, and it's not that it did anything wrong at all, but you know, we were within half a mile of this turn, and there was, you know, a decent amount of traffic, and we were already in the right hand lane, but there was a couple cars or a couple of those big trucks that were going really slow, and so it got all the way over into the far left lane, went on up around all of them, you know, perfectly safe distance. I mean, you can see we're still having to wait to turn, but it came on up ahead of all these, the big U-Haul and the big 18-wheeler, and then got over to the middle, then got over to the right. So it, I have it set that way for a reason, because I want it to be somewhat assertive. I don't want it to just hang back and sit behind a slow car the whole time. But at the same time, sometimes I'm like, I wouldn't have gotten over to the left when I need to turn right in a quarter mile, but it. I guess that's what being assertive is. It says, you know what, we're going to go around these cars and we're going to make the turn earlier than we would have if we just waited. So sometimes just let it do it. If it's not doing anything dangerous or anything that I really don't want it to do, I just let it go and see what it's going to do. It's kind of part of training the system, and also just if I were to take over every time it did something that I wouldn't necessarily do, even if it's not wrong. Then I wouldn't really get to know how it would normally respond to things. So it handled that fine. It just was kind of funny that it got far left, moved up in front of all the other slower trucks, and then got back over. But like I said, it handled it fine, and it did it within plenty of time to where it wasn't uncomfortably, you know, having to get over quickly or miss the turn or anything like that. So did fine. Well, just about back to the house. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up here. I hope some of that was nothing much of that was new, with the exception of maybe a couple of the disengagements from the right lane turn drift, and then once at the restaurant with the turn lanes that were all blocked with all the cones and barrels. I did take over there also because it looked like it was going to turn into the adjacent restaurant. Because of all the cones that were there. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that and like it. It'll help the channel get viewed more. I appreciate it. See y'all in the next one.